Assalamu alaikum, guys. Feels like 5 years, even though it's only been 2 weeks. I feel like, as human beings, being in a bad mental state, it's one of the most addictive things a person can go through. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example and I'll tell you why. I've had these thoughts lately. So, growing up, I went through a lot of self hatred. I feel like everything I did, I was constantly self aware of myself, but it was in the most negative way. Like, I used to go outside and think everyone was looking at me because I looked so horrible. Or I used to do my makeup 50 times because I never was happy with the way my face looked, my face shape. The funny thing about this is, though, a side note, is I never wanted to get plastic surgery or anything. It was like an internal deep hatred. Like, it wasn't just about my appearance, it was about my whole self. It was very intoxicating, I would call it. But another trait that I would do when I was in this deep state of self hatred is I would often take photos of myself. So whenever I was out, I would take a photo of my face and I would analyze how my face would look. I thought, oh, it's too round, or my nose is too big, or my lips are too small. And I would pick at myself constantly. And my friends would be out with me sometimes and they would see me take photos of my face and they'd look at me and they wouldn't really say anything. But I would look at this photo and I'd really think, wow, I look terrible. And lately, right? So this was maybe, when was it? 2022. So 4 years ago. And lately I've been on a journey. So I'm training for a marathon and I've been going to Pilates and going to the gym and feeling really good, right? Like, I feel pretty lean. I feel pretty mentally strong and a lot of things are going well in my life, alhamdulillah. And I was in Pilates the other day and I was noticing that before every Pilates class, when I was on my phone, I would catch myself going on my camera roll and I would scroll to 6 months ago. So 6 months ago, I started fasting and I lost all this weight rapidly, right? But the thing is about losing weight is that if you don't love yourself every step of the way, it won't stay off. So when I was losing weight, I was still in cycles of self-hatred, right? Like, I still was like, oh, you're not good enough, you need to do better, you do better, you do better. But then the thing about that is why you go back to the way you were is because that that feeling of satisfaction, it never comes. And when it never comes, you just constantly you revert back to old habits because you're not because you it kind of comes, how do I say this? It kind of almost makes you kind of make yourself feel like you don't deserve it. So that's why you go back to the way you were. So then I gained weight after I did the fasting. Anyway, that was just a side note. So every time before Pilates, I would look at these photos and I'd say, oh, look at me then. So much more skinnier. And I would look at photos. And I think the third time I did it, I had this moment of clarity and I was thinking, what am I doing right now? What am I actually doing? I'm on my phone. I'm a beautiful young woman. I'm close to God. I'm listening to Quran every day. I have happy relationships. I have happy friendships. And I'm looking at a physical photo of me, right? And I'm saying, oh, if I was like that again, I would be happy, right? But the thing is, and what I was reflecting on after this moment, I was thinking that all I could see of myself was a photo, right? And it's like on social media, all you see are photos. You see beautiful women, you see beautiful men, you see beautiful animals, whatever, and all you see is a photo of them. But all you see is a highlight reel. You don't actually see their internal struggles and you don't actually see what they're going through every day. And then when I really reflected, I realized, oh, when I took this picture, I was actually really unhappy, or I was really depressed. I was really obsessive about food. I actually started getting very toxic with my fasting and I would think about food all the time. And I actually was having panic attacks and losing my hair because I was just becoming so obsessive over it. But of course, when I was looking at this photo of myself, that's all I wanted. I wanted to look like her again. But in reality, right, I'd done so much work. I'd taken new supplements. I'd done types of therapy, breath work, sorry, to get to where I am now, to an actual safe space, an actual good mental space. But I was still comparing myself to her. And then I was realizing, I was like, wow, I want to go back to who I was then. But who I was then, was that someone I really want to go back to? And the way I was thinking about it again was that I think I talked about it in a previous video, how to be happy, you need to have a balance of all factors, right? Friendships, relationships, spirituality, health, everything, right? It all needs to be in a very synchronized circle. And when you don't have that, you'll never be on a happy continuum. Remember, I don't view happiness as a destination. I view it as a continuum. So it's a line that we're constantly on, and we constantly can go up and go through triumph, but we keep going up, inshallah. Anyway, so what was I saying? My God. Oh, yes. So then I was thinking about how when I was looking at that photo, all I was looking at was my physical then. I wasn't looking at my friendships. I wasn't looking at my closeness to God. I wasn't looking at my health, my mental health, my losing my hair. I wasn't looking at my anxiety. I wasn't looking at my relationships. I wasn't looking at my skin or my, I don't know, internal health things that I had going on. I was just looking at my body. And I was just thinking, like, wow, you're going to have that same, like, when, for example, when I'm 50 years old, I'm going to look at myself now and be like, wow, I wish I actually enjoyed what I looked at then. I wish I actually appreciated her. I wish I didn't take her for granted, because you're never going to be at this same point again, right? And I realized when I was looking at those photos, it was such a moment of self-sabotage, because instead of taking in all the work that I'd done in every type of factor in my life, I was just looking at the physical format and completely ignoring all my mental health struggles and everything else I was going through. So it was such an interesting moment to me, because I feel like you think you've gotten over things sometimes, but they still creep up on you. And you really have to reevaluate, and you really need to take a step back. And it's like when I was looking at those photos, I felt an addiction. Like, I'm not lying. I had the urge. Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. After I said this, after I had this realization, I was like, I'm never doing this again. And then I remember I had the urge. The next day, I was like, I need to look. I was like, no, you're not doing it. Now I haven't done it, mashallah, for like 3 weeks. So it's very positive. But yeah, I think we we are so fragile, and we are so sensitive as human beings that whatever we absorb goes into our head no matter what. And you might think you're so strong, and you might think, oh, some girls say they don't care about their boyfriend liking photos of girls in bikinis or some stupid bullshit like that. And I just think, like, we're so used to creating mechanisms for things to become normal that just shouldn't be normal in the first place. And a lot of that is self-hatred and mechanisms to stay in that addictive cycle of self-hatred and make it normal to you when it's actually not normal, if that makes sense. It's such an interesting thing, because I just feel like as a society, we're so equipped, and it's so normalized to be mentally ill. And you hear comments from your parents or your grandparents, and it's just like, wow, it's everyone's got this addiction within them to just say, like, I don't know, even like a lot of older women now, like they'll have a sweet or something and then they'll feel so guilty after. And I think, wow, like, alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful that I'm doing the work now to get to a better place, instead of being in that same place when I'm 50 and realizing, oh my God, something's actually wrong. Um, Another thing I wanted to talk about was that every day you do get better, no matter what. No matter if you're in a really bad state, if you're grieving, or no matter if you think that life is just really down for you at the moment, time does heal. And I think that feeling like you want to, like, for example, talking back to that same point I was just saying about um, going back to a time before, I think it's very key to also think about how every day and every second, every minute that passes, you're having more experiences and you're learning more. So you're a completely different, better version of yourself because of these experiences, no matter if they're negative or they're positive, because everything leads you to the person that you're meant to be. And God has a path for all of us. So I think also um, feeling like you want to go back to something that also you think makes you happy, like me doing that photo thing, I think that's also because of my lack of trust or my lack of closeness with Allah. Because if I trusted Him and I trusted in His path, I would know that I'm only going forward and that I shouldn't look backwards, because He's got a better plan for me. So I think that's also about keeping faith in your heart. and about getting stronger on your Dean. So I think that's a sign for me. Anyway, I feel like I'm ranting, but yeah. It's just it's a hard concept to navigate, self-hatred, because you think it's something that will never leave you, and then like I look back at videos of me years ago where I look back at moments where I was so deep in it and I really thought I was in an ocean of hate. And now, inshallah, with God's help, I'm swam out of it and I feel so grateful, but I also feel like I've got a lot more work to do. But I think the more I realize that I have more work to do, the more like the more I realize, sorry, as time goes on, that I have a lot more work to do, the more I realize how deep that self-hatred went. So it's like it's not, it's just you're on a journey with it, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling now. Catch you later.